within 24 hours or less than that, 12 hours, it's now lifted.
Right.
It's just kind of interesting how, like, why 10 days, then why all of a sudden lifted? I don't know. I just want a little bit more of the TikTok, if you will, on that. I guess I'll go to TikTok and get more information. I don't know.
I mean, this is still a developing story. We're just getting this information. My suspicion would be that it was a knee-jerk reaction by the FAA. They probably initially saw these drones or somehow detected these drones, didn't really know what to do with it, and that's when the Department of War came in and did its thing, and so now they're reacting. We'll continue to follow this. Interesting story to me, David.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, we got to run. We got more. Guess what? There's another show tomorrow. So we can talk again tomorrow about this. More airtime. All right.
There you go. I see you, David. We appreciate you. Always good to see you. Now, let's get over to War Room. That's up next. Go boldly, everybody.
See you.
This morning about the FBI's raid of a Fulton County, Georgia election facility last month. Newly unsealed court documents reveal the search and seizure of 2020 presidential election data was prompted by a referral from Kurt Olsen, a former campaign lawyer for President Trump. Olsen played a key role in the aftermath of the election as the president sought to get the results overturned. He was a major proponent of the disproven conspiracy theories pushed by the president and his allies. The unsealed affidavit repeats many of those same claims, including that Fulton County mishandled enough ballots to change the result. Several legal cases and audits of the election have confirmed Joe Biden won. The public release of the records follows a request by Fulton officials for more information on the raid. Last month, FBI agents took hundreds of boxes of election ballots and data from the 2020 election. The Justice Department has not said what it has done with those documents or where they are being stored. Meanwhile, a federal judge has dismissed a lawsuit filed by the Justice Department to obtain Michigan's unredacted voter rolls. Michigan's Secretary of State argued the DOJ's request violated state and federal privacy laws. In its argument, the Justice Department cited several federal laws, including the Civil Rights Act of 1960 and the National Voter Registration Act. But the judge, a Trump appointee, ruled those laws, quote, do not allow the United States to obtain the records at issue. And so, amid Trump's recent call to, quote, nationalize elections, several top state election officials say the federal government has become hostile to them and their work, with one Secretary of State declaring, quote, we can't trust the federal government, and they are now adversaries of the states.
Donald Trump came in 2020. He knew he was going to lose, and he had to attack the one way that people could vote in the middle of a pandemic so that he could call it fraud when it wasn't fraud. And you're right. I've been sounding this alarm going all the way back to 2020 and have been sounding it ever since. But the fact is that what we all need to do is to call it out for what it is. It is not just voter suppression. It is them trying to make it so hard for you to vote so that they can cheat on the outcome, because they know that notwithstanding their failed efforts to gerrymander, notwithstanding their failed efforts to spread election lies, they are still going to be on the losing end of these midterm elections. So the only thing they have left is to try to radically restrict the ability of people to cast ballots and then set themselves up, if they don't like the results, to execute raids and to take over vote counting and to falsely certify election results.
They are trying to nationalize the elections. They're trampling on our constitutional rights, and we have to safeguard against them.
It's a huge deal, John. You know, it was a mystery, now a little bit less so. And the new reporting from me, a source familiar, briefed by the Federal Aviation Administration on this really unprecedented 10-day airspace shutdown over El Paso, Texas, right on the border there with Mexico, says this is all linked to military activity at nearby Fort Bliss, specifically Biggs Army Airfield. You can see it on the map there, just north of the El Paso International Airport. That is significant because it seems that the Defense Department was carrying out some sort of operation there, still sort of unspecified, which caused the FAA to think that they could not assure the safety of flights going in and out of El Paso International Airport. Therefore, that led to this blanket sweeping airspace shutdown without modern precedent. A lot of people online have been pointing to 9/11 as a similar incident causing something like this. That was a nationwide emergency airspace shutdown. The situation was fluid, but it was pretty obvious why that shutdown went into place. This really broke overnight, and it wasn't very clear why this went into place. There is never, ever in the history of the Federal Aviation Administration, and I can say that with some authority as a pilot and a flight instructor, been a large-scale shutdown of airspace over a large metropolitan area. We're talking about a city of about 1 million people, about 1,000 flights operating in that 10-day period in and out of El Paso, Texas. We're getting a statement just shortly now from Southwest Airlines in which they will say they're trying to work with the FAA on this. This is going to have a pretty big ripple effect because this is not a small airport, really billed as the gateway to Mexico, this airport. So this is going to have a big trickle down here. I want to also point out the things in this notice to airmen or temporary flight restriction that make this so different than other temporary restrictions on flights that we see for things like VIP movements or presidential movements. This includes all flights up to 18,000 feet. The emphasis there on all flights. That's commercial flights, also police helicopters and medevac helicopters. Usually those things are exempted from a large ban on airspace of about 10 miles here. So this is really significant, John, and the new details are just coming in. We now have a better idea of why this was put in place, a bit of an impasse between the Department of Defense and the Federal Aviation Administration.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Wednesday, 11 February in the year of our Lord 2026. We're trying to get up. We're having a little technical issue because he happens to be out of the country. Eric Prince is going to join us momentarily. Of course, this massive breaking news about El Paso. Fortunately, we've had Eric up here really talk about what's happening today at the White House. So two things are going on. We're going to try to juggle because we've got an absolute packed show. Pam Bondi, I believe, is in front of the Judiciary Committee. That ought to be, they will probably light her up on a number of topics. We're going to cut in and out of that, particularly opening statements, if we can do it. Real America's Voice, we may go to no commercial breaks if we have to. Also, the most important thing was supposed to happen today is Bibi Netanyahu is coming to the White House. Now, we just found out, as you normally know, as we do these evolutions, the flags come out, there's some sort of even mini official arrival onto the West Wing, the kind of the working side of the White House, not the South Lawn, but the West Wing side. As you know, many times we see this for these bilats. The meeting's supposed to take place in the Oval Office, but we're just notified moments ago, and we're going to get Brian Glenn up in a moment from the White House, that it's closed press right now, and we're not even sure that there's going to be an honor guard or any type of flags, et cetera. In fact, Brian's saying he may actually come in through the working side of the White House, which is down by across from EOB, where the staff comes in, down by the National Security Council. Maybe the meeting's going to be held there. Maybe that's why they're doing it. But the news is that President Trump has ordered to put pressure on Tehran. There's comments coming out, or at least leaks coming out of the Department of War and the White House, that President Trump has authorized a second carrier strike group to the North Arabian Sea. He's already got a carrier strike group there to make sure that the Iranians know, the Ayatollah and the mullahs know that President Trump means business here. Part of the reason Netanyahu is there is to make two cases. Number one, his case is that he's concerned that I guess Witkoff and Jared Kushner have narrowed these discussions around Iran's nuclear program, its ballistic missile program, to make sure President Trump totally obliterated it to end the 12-day war. But there's some discussion about, do they still have some remnant left? Are they still, getting the nuclear, what you have to do to actually do weapons grade nuclear material? Is that still going? President Trump has said that has to all be eradicated. The mullahs and the Ayatollahs negotiators have said, well, that's not going to happen. Bibi's role, he says, that those negotiations have to be broadened out to a whole host of other things, which would tantamount to setting up for regime change, at least through negotiations. He is going to make the case, as you've heard Mark Levin and Senator Graham and others relentlessly over the last couple of weeks make the case that if you don't strike now, you're not going to have opportunity to strike later. They'll never be this week. And so there's a whole huge amount of tension about this. Bibi's actually moved it forward. He moved it forward. He wants to press the case for a military strike. I will tell you, given everything on the president's plate right now, including what we're seeing down in Texas, and this doesn't have to do with with El Paso, which I'll get to in a second. His plate is quite full, and I just would think, we got Eric. This plate's quite full, and so many other things going on. Okay, we're going to get to all of this morning. I want to start. Eric Prince, thank you for joining us. I know you're overseas. First off, I've had a number of people come to me. They just want to make sure you're safe and secure. We know you've been traveling throughout the world, and particularly in some places with a lot of bad hombres. Are you okay?
I am alive and free and enjoying life, Steve. So yes, the fake news coming out of the clowns in Rwanda about capturing me were completely false, and they had taken some battlefield setbacks of late. I think they've resorted to just making up nonsense.
Just give me a minute on that, because you mentioned it. A lot of people have contacted me and said, hey, they were putting out actual information that you had been captured and were being held hostage, or there were all types of nefarious things going on. We can put that rumor to bed?
Yes, you can put that rumor to bed. I've not been back on the continent of Africa in at least 30 days. But the fact is, Paul Kagame comes to a peace signing ceremony with President Trump on December 4 with the president of DRC. And while he's there, he's launching a further invasion of the Democratic Republic of Congo while sitting in the White House. And the White House was rightly upset about that, because President Trump's been trying to be the president of peace and bringing parties together, trying to, end wars. And Kagame launches an offensive. And so our primary job in the Congo right now is to do tax collection from the mines. And so some of that capability had to pivot to help stop another invasion by Rwanda of the Congo.
Eric, I had you on here today. You want to talk about Bibi and the situation in Tehran, so potentially a second carrier battle group going. We got a couple of minutes this break. I want to hold you through. You have been the guy for now a decade that has thought through what Venezuela, but particularly you've been at the tip of the spear in talking about the cartels, military interdiction, what's going to happen with these the corrupt government in Mexico. Peter Schweitzer's book, New York Times #1 bestseller, says the Mexican government's actively involved in the invasion of our country. They shut down El Paso airspace. The Department of War just announced it because it's about militarized drones flown by the cartels, and I think they've taken care of the situation. Give me a minute on that before we go to break.
So, for example, Colombia has had hundreds of drone attacks against Colombian security forces, armed drone attacks. They've had helicopters shot down, troops killed by very well-armed cartels. I'm not surprised that kind of cartel capability comes up to the southern border of the United States. I'm sure that NOTAM, that Notice to Airmen, terminal flight restriction, basically, it's like when you're going to fire live weapons on a firing range, you clear the area. That's what happened. The Department of War probably had a lot of indications of drones coming, and so they used some higher-end capabilities, whether they're kinetic or EMPs or lasers, to shoot all those threats out of the sky.
Eric, hang on for 1 second. We've had a little technical problem, but you're coming in through loud and clear right now, so we're going to take a short commercial break. Okay, we got Pam Bondi testifying. We've got Bibi Netanyahu about to show up. We've got a packed show today, including this a massacre last night up in British Columbia. They said someone in a dress, a gun person in a dress. We'll get down to all of that. Also, the other investigations going on Capitol Hill. They're melting down because I believe Kurt Olson, a frequent guest on the War Room over the years, is now President Trump's right-hand man on looking at the machines. Looks like the CIA and DNI have turned over material to him about the 2020 election. They're melting down. Take your phone out. Text Bannon, Bannon, at 989898. The ultimate guide for investing in gold and precious metals. Free, no obligations. Get to talk to Philip Patrick and the team. Do it today, right now.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Florida Sun Goddess here. Let me tell you why I love RAV. They let my voice be heard. They give me a platform for community so I don't feel alone. Thanks so much. God bless.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
Closure of airspace over El Paso. It's now been lifted. The agency said there is no threat to commercial aviation. All flights will soon resume as normal. This comes hours after flights in and out of El Paso International Airport were closed, with officials citing special security reasons. So this is good news, but the mystery remains. For those people who are heading home from El Paso, maybe you want to turn around or call your local airline.
Eric Prince joins us. Eric, you remember those of a certain age remember the remember the film 7 Days in May with Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. It was centered around an airbase near El Paso, Texas. The FAA has just said that these drones, these militarized drones, did come into American airspace. Your thoughts, sir? The Department of War acted immediately, but your thoughts about this?
They could have even been heavy lift agricultural drones flown from Mexico carrying 10, 20, 50 kilos of narcotics to a predetermined drop location. So whether they're carrying weapons or drugs, it is part of an ongoing mechanized invasion enabled by the Mexican government's inability to clamp down on the criminal activity. And so at some point, there has to be consequences. I'm not sure that the Mexican presidency is the fully witting and able counterparty, although I think she's better off than the predecessor. This will continue to be a problem. When you have to shut down airspace for a 1 million-person city in America so that you can clear the skies with kinetic capability from the military, that is by definition an invasion, and it must be dealt with. This is, to me, this is far worse than those weather balloons or whatever, the surveillance balloons that the Chinese were flying across U.S. airspace and Biden didn't dare shoot them down. I'm glad the War Department shot these things down. The question is, how do they go after the sources? Now, there's some very good tech available, learned from the Ukraine war, to originate, to locate the controller, the person, the pilot that's controlling those drones at its origin. The question is the Department of War going to shoot back and either put a warhead or another drone back at that pilot location to kill whoever's doing it?
Schweitzer's book shows that the Mexican government is, first off, they're in business with the cartel. The cartels kind of control them, and they also use the cartel as their muscle. They're inextricably linked with. This book shows that the Mexican government, the 7 families that control Mexico, are up to their neck in this. And with the cartels, they control the government. They're an enemy of the United States. They're not a friendly power. We don't have, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the military expert. Don't we have combat air patrol up all the time, and particularly on the southern border, just for situations like this? And you've advocated for years, we got to start doing deep interdiction strikes into the cartel's bases in northern Mexico?
When Israel started tangling with Hezbollah back in 2000, after October 7, 50% of the FPVs, first person viewer drones, attack drones that were flown by Hezbollah, made it into Israel and hit their targets. So combat air patrol is flying at thousands and thousands of feet looking for another aircraft with a very high capable radar. It does not have the visibility to spot a tiny 4 or 10 or even 50 kg payload drone flying 100 meters from the surface. So I think the solution to the cartels is to kind of unleash almost a public-private partnership, almost like the founding fathers knew what they were doing when they talked about the letter of marque and reprisal. Lots of ways to go after those 7 families, the cartel families that are enabling this criminality, is to first go after their money, that's been laundered into legitimate businesses, and freeze that and start to squeeze like an octopus. And you will get them to comply without even having to kill a whole lot of people. But if you squeeze their money hard, it will unequivocally get their attention.
Okay, we're using that strategy. Let's shift now to Tehran, because that's a strategy we've advocated. And President Trump, economic warfare, Scott Bessent, you're squeezing the mullahs. You got more sanctions on them. We haven't interdicted the oil going out Straits of Hormuz to China, which is their big payday. Right now, there's talk about a second carrier battle group heading over there. Bibi's there today to argue 2 things. Number one, the negotiations we're having right now is too narrow cast just on their nuclear capability. You've got to broaden it out to really work through regime change. And if that doesn't work, if you can't get there, you have to go in and strike. And by the way, from Mark Levin to Senator Graham to Ted Cruz, I mean, there's a firestorm up on Capitol Hill supporting that. Bibi's going to be in the Oval Office in about 35 minutes, to not open to the press right now, but to make this case to the president. What would be your advice? Where are we? Do a sit rep. Where are we? And what is your advice to the president?
No, no, and no is a complete answer. Ultimately, Iran is not the problem in the United States. It would be an unnecessary war. I'm all in favor of the Iranian people having their freedom. They have to sort this out on their own. If people want to give them the tools to go after the mullahs, fine, but it does not require U.S. air power. And in no time in history ever has air power alone changed a regime. None. With the exception, we've got compliance when we dropped 2 nukes into Japan that at least made them stop. But otherwise, air power alone is not going to move the needle here.
Yeah. We firebombed Tokyo and Osaka for 6 months, worse than we firebombed Dresden, and they weren't prepared to surrender until the second nuke, and that's because they had a threat of a 4 million man invasion of an American Army and Marine Corps, with America taking 1 million casualties. So you're right on air power. So what would be your advice to the President of the United States? I know he looks to you. This is why when they had this problem in sub-Saharan Africa or Haiti, you're a guy that they talk to. In Mexico, Venezuela, you can see your handprints over everywhere of your thinking and ideas. So what you're thinking in Tehran, because, dude, when they got so many assets in there now, it's pretty amazing. I think it's a bigger buildup, except for ground troops, than even the Gulf War when you talk about air power and naval power, and they're sending another carrier strike group, a rumor to send it over now. So what is your recommendation to the president?
The problem is air power alone is not going to do this. You're not going to kill the tens of thousands of IRGC, Quds Force, Hezbollah personnel. Hell, they've even contracted, the Iranians have, with Shia Afghan ex-soldiers to try to beat up on Iranian protesters. The problem is the regime will kill their way to success. And until you take away the inevitability of the regime and have enough force to displace them, the air power alone is not going to get that done. So again, not our problem. Iran does not have an Independence Day because they don't get invaded. They've not been colonized. The terrain of Iran absolutely lends itself towards a defensive perimeter. The mountain ring in the south, the Zagros Mountains, the rough interior. This is not a place that air power alone is going to change the regime. Listen, if it works, I'll eat my hat, but I just don't think that's the way to go here. That is not America first. It is not our problem. If we want to help the Iranian people defeat them, their neighbors are. If the Iranians, if the Persian Empire returns, even if you got rid of the mullahs, you have a lot of layers of governance there. And if Iran does return to a historic role, they've had a role of generally bullying their neighbors. So their behavior is not unhistorical. It's just that it's in the hands of some really crazy mullahs right now. But again, it is not the responsibility of the United States government and the taxpayers and American fighting personnel that are 8,000 miles away to solve that problem. Hard no.
Eric, before I let you go, we're in Texas, and we're here through the primary. We've got one of the top pollsters, James Johnson, is going to come on right after you. The New York Times put up a story last night how this anti-Sharia law and this whole issue about an Islamic invasion of Texas has become the top political issue down here. I know in Northern Virginia, you've talked about this for a while. These school choice have built all these schools. In the New York Times, they had a quote by somebody here, and they said, one of the mullahs or one of the imams said, well, look, we look at Texas as the new Medina. How would you interpret that? We got about a minute and a half. How would you interpret that, and how important it is to ban Sharia law in this country?
Ban Sharia law. If this, again, Steve, if this doesn't get solved in the ballot box, this will get solved in a very kinetic way, because I don't think Americans are going to accept being colonized by an Islamic paradigm. That's happened before. The Reconquista happened in Spain. It took a couple hundred years. It will not take a couple hundred years this time to change it back.
Eric Prince, where do people go? I think you got a podcast, although I know you're traveling all over the world. How do people, are you putting up any content? And if you are, where can people go to get it?
I'm on X at Real Eric D. Prince. I've been kind of quiet because we're busy solving some other countries' problems, and I will be noisier about that in the coming months. But until then, we got work to do.
Well, it's good to know you've got many friends and allies that were quite concerned by the rumors that were coming out, but it's good to know that you're in one piece and have really thought through these issues. Appreciate you, sir, as always.
All right, Steve. Take care.
If you look at problems that get fixed, eventually Eric Prince's ideas, I think, get manifested. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We've shifted the flag down here to Texas for one reason. There is a massive issue about Sharia law. There's also a massive issue about H-1B visas. That is right. A permission structure was granted to talk about Sharia law. I think a permission structure is going to come very quick on H-1B visas. A pollster, this is going to be, I think, the most expensive Republican primary in history. It's a three-way horse race. One of the top pollsters who put out a poll last week that blew people's heads up is going to join us. We're also going to go to the White House. We've got Brian Glenn, and also Dr. Peter Navarro has got the argument for President Trump and the facts about manufacturing. So back to the White House, Capitol Hill, all of it. Stick around. You're in the War Room.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of the Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Hey y'all, it's Nancy from Texas. Real America's Voice gives us truth, not propaganda, and we need that. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, my name is Jeff. I'm from Massachusetts. I love Rav because of the free speech and the political wranglings that go on in the chat every day.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorful Colorado. I'm drawbridging the Getter chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
James Johnson about Texas is going to join us in a second. I want to go live to the White House. We're going to be going live to the White House twice today. One, Brian Glenn is with us, and Peter Navarro is going to join us in the second hour. Brian, okay, so right now I get no honor guard. It's going to be closed to the press. It'll be an Oval Office meeting, it looks like, with Bibi and the President of the United States. I think this is his 6th trip or 7th trip. I say it's a wellness check right now, but maybe I'm too cynical. White House sources are telling you what about exactly what this meeting's about, sir?
Yeah, there's 3 topics mainly on the table here. First of all would be the Board of Peace and kind of where we're at in regards to that structure, you know, President Trump heading up the Board of Peace. Second would be the second phase in the Gaza development and what countries are involved and what's the state of that right now. Then lastly, the situation with Iran, particularly in not only the nuclear talks, but also the long-range ballistic missiles as well. And from what I understand, the Iranian president just said recently that any talk about that is excessive, and they're not necessarily agreeing to a deal that eliminates that off the table. Now, you said in the open, traditionally, we have been lined up out front of the West Wing. You've got the traditional color guard, but behind me is the Eisenhower building. And between the Eisenhower building and the West Wing is where the prime minister will make his arrival. That happens in about 25 minutes, and we'll have that live as it happens.
You're breaking a big scoop. So Bibi's traditionally come not through the South Lawn, but through the West, and they've had the flags, and we set it up a half hour beforehand. We see the color guard come up, they pull up, and this is, every president essentially comes for an official bilat. Then, I don't know, a couple of months ago, we did he came, and he just came to the West Wing with no color guard, came in, and I said it was like a pizza delivery. Our hit with you, I think, did 5 or 6 million hits, right, on social media because it's so shocking. Yeah. You're actually breaking big news. And I say, this is not pulling up to that kind of West Wing thing where you walk right past the Roosevelt Room in the Oval. This is, if you're correct, he's coming in basically where the staff comes in, down where the awning is by the National Security Council, and then goes a back route up to the Oval Office. Is that what you're telling me you think is going to happen today?
Yes, sir. I can confirm that's what's going to happen today. I was told that by a Trump official. So all the activity you see, and if we could flip the camera around, which we won't, this is where the Israeli foreign press is set up, they can stay there because guess what? He's not coming through here. He's coming up behind us. For the most part, Steve, that is out of camera sight for the most part. So I think that these camera folks will probably shift over here to where I'm at in order to, you're not going to be able to see his arrival, but you'll see the black cars coming behind me, but you're not going to see him get out and meet the president. That's not going to happen.
Audience, you see that if you go and let's go full screen on to Brian if we can. That is the executive office building. That's what they call the Eisenhower. That is on the White House compound. In fact, the vast majority of the staff that we talk about work over there. In fact, Dr. DeVar has his staff. That's where the majority, and they walk back and forth with a pass. Only a certain pass gets you in. Now, the only time I remember a major head of state coming through that working pass is when, I believe in the Obama administration, I think it was, when the Dalai Lama showed up, and Obama and those guys did not want to upset the Chinese Communist Party. They slipped the Dalai Lama in through the side door. But that is pretty extraordinary, sir, is it not?
It is. Joan, if we could move that light, I'm going to whip the camera around. I want to show our viewers exactly what you're talking about, Steve, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Let's whip this around, and I'll show you. Right now, we don't have a Marine outside of the West Wing here, which indicates President Trump is not in the Oval Office. Now, let's whip the camera back around here. Here's a massive amount of foreign press. I'd say 90% of the folks over there are foreign press. And, of course, if you whip the camera back around here a little bit more, there is the Pebble Beach. There is no color guard. There is no official greeting for the prime minister. Now, I will say this, Steve, the J6, I call it the January 6th style fencing, that is up around this area. So the security protocols are in place. But if you're looking for a welcoming flag, Steve, it's not here. He'll be entering the building behind me.
Behind you, but I got to tell you, from the side into the White House right there below it. But I got to tell you, I'm sure they're going to negotiate. If they've got the international media right there and the Israeli media, there's no way they want to come through that very side door. You watched. I'm sure there's some intense negotiation. And if I will take the over that he won't arrive at 11 o'clock, that I'll take the over right now, where I'm sure there's some negotiation, because at least he's going to show up like he did last time with the international media, but with no official greeting, but at least it's not through the side door, correct?
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I have been told that, it is closed as of right now, but you know how President Trump is. If whatever the outcome of that meeting with the prime minister, if he feels like there was some messaging that came out of that meeting that he wants to get in front of these foreign media and the American outlets, they'll open it up. So stay tuned, because we could break in with some live coverage in there.
Yeah, we'll take that. By the way, big news will be if there's not a strike. If there looks like there's going to be a strike or the second carrier battle group's going, people better be ready, because I've never seen more hardware into a region at all. No updates so far. Before I let you go, no updates so far on the interdiction of the militarized drones sent up by supposedly the cartels into violated American airspace down in El Paso, sir?
No, sir. I have not gotten any official word from the White House. I did have a colleague share a message that did confirm that they did shoot down Mexican cartel drones in that area. And I was telling a colleague earlier, if we can strike boats off the coast of Venezuela to have drugs, so why not shoot those drones out of the air as well, especially in U.S. airspace? They were able to get into U.S. airspace, which is very concerning.
That is a violation of our sovereignty. Brian Glenn, social media. We'll come back to you. As soon as you get anything to break with BB, we'll come right back to you. Where do people go get you?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Steve. You can follow me at Brian Glenn TV across the board, at Brian on Truth Social. We'll have it here for you live as it develops, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, we're streaming Pam Bondi. She's going to get lit up today. Jamie Raskin's already lighting into her. So we're going to go back to that as we can get clips. We're streaming it on our other side so you can watch the whole thing in its entirety. James Johnson joins us. James, first off, talk to me, because we've known you for a long time. The Worm's known you for a long time. Many of the people we're close to know that you're one of the top smartest pollsters around. You put out a poll last week in this Texas race, and it really upended the race and kind of caused a lot of consternation, particularly among the Cornyn camp. And you were immediately accused of foreign interference into an American election. Talk to me first about your company, who you are, and was that poll foreign interference in a Senate election in the great state of Texas?
Well, Steve, we've got a ridiculous moment now where I start speaking and everybody hears my British accent. But I am my company, JL Partners, is not a British company. We are an American company registered in Virginia. I'm a permanent resident here. The accent is usually a helpful thing, Steve, but it's not on this occasion. Look, we put out this poll last week. We are not affiliated with any campaign, any outside group. I've never spoken to any of these campaigns or affiliated groups from them, let alone being paid by them. But we put it out there as a poll that we self-funded to try and shine the truth on this race, because there are loads of these polls sponsored by various campaigns or PACs, and we wanted to get at the truth. And we found that Ken Paxton is the sort of leading Conservative candidate. He's ahead by 1 point. And then behind him, tied for second place, is Wesley Hunt and John Cornyn. So we're basically saying, as pollsters say, it's all within the margin of error, and it's effectively a three-way tie.
This is one of the most important Republican primaries in the history of this country, and it may end up being the one that's the most money spent. I think the shock was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to disparage guys, but I think the Cornyn camp was saying that this was a Wesley Hunt. This was Wesley Hunt trying to show he's competitive, and that Cornyn is not going to finish in a runoff, because right now the law in Texas is you have to get 50% of the vote plus one. And if you don't, you go to another massive runoff. Everybody, I think right now, the consensus is it'll be very difficult for any of the candidates, including Paxton, to get to 50% plus one vote. So we're going to go to a runoff. And in Capitol Hill, they're absolutely apoplectic in the Senate Leadership Fund that Cornyn could finish third. I mean, what shocked people about your poll was how well Hunt was doing vis-a-vis Cornyn, because Cornyn, since we moved the show to Texas a couple of weeks ago, we curate not just MFC, we curate the local news. I've never seen the gross tonnage of Cornyn ads is unbelievable. And the president has not endorsed here, but if you watch these Cornyn ads, you literally think he's sleeping in the Lincoln bedroom in the White House. It's so close. He's walking on the border. He's with President Trump. He gives the impression he's Trump's candidate, but it's just their ad after ad after ad over Super Bowl Sunday, all of it. What are your thoughts about this race?
Yeah, look, the amount of money poured in is obviously huge. It is the big primary race of this cycle of this year. I think that if Wesley Hunt wasn't in this race, John Cornyn would be in a much better position. But clearly, this new sort of person has come through and has, potentially will push him into third. And as you say, that would be a massive turn up for the books. Look, I think that what we've seen in the last couple of days in that Senate race is actually both campaigns start to now point their guns at Wesley Hunt because he's sort of so close to pushing Cornyn off that second space spot if he hasn't already. So I think that speaks volumes. These guys are seeing him as a serious threat. Action speaks louder than words on these things. And I think, he has come through the middle of this race. He has the highest favorability ratings of anyone we polled, partly because he's less of a known quantity. And people, I think, are looking for an alternative to vote for, and they feel that he could be that person. Plenty of time to run, and obviously whoever gets through has to win that runoff too. But let me just quickly talk about those John Cornyn ads, because a huge number of people in the race have seen it. So we didn't just ask the top line numbers. We also asked people, have you seen, read or heard anything about the various candidates in the last 2 weeks? And 59% of Republican primary voters in Texas said that they have seen, read or heard something about John Cornyn. Now, on the one hand, you think that's great for the campaign there. They've got their, view across, the ad money's working, people are seeing the ads. However, when we break that down as to whether people feel better or worse, the effect of these ads is actually completely net neutral. The same number of people who say they've got a more favorable response as a result of the ads is the same as the number who say they have a less favorable view. And that, to me, is suggesting that some of this messaging about the closeness to Trump is perhaps backfiring, or maybe even some voters are not buying it.
Is that pretty unheard of?
It's pretty unusual. It's pretty unusual. I mean, I've got some more info on here, and here's what they say when we said, what did you see in the last 2 weeks about John Cornyn? And there are some positives in there. Some people say he stands with Trump. I saw an ad and it shows that he's securing the border. He seems to stand up for Texans. But then look on the negative side, similar people having seen similar ads, but instead saying I don't trust him because of his votes in the past. He does not have conservative values and does not have my support the way he votes. This is real quotes from real voters. He said he was a Trump Republican, but I see him as a rhino. And at the end here, something you've been talking about a lot, Steve, is he is too close with Islam, which is also clearly having an impact on views of him in this race.
Can you hang on for a second? I want to hold you through the break because this race is so important. What's happening in Texas is so important. What James talked about, the New York Times had a big story last night. Guess what? About how a new issue down here is the rise of Islam and banning Sharia law. We've given a permission structure for people to talk about it, and they are talking about it. Of course, the New York Times calls it a conspiracy theory. Naturally, we're going to take a short commercial break. Home Title Lock, HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Steve. You get access for 14 days, 2 weeks, to the $1 million triple lock protection. You find out how this protects you against AI, cyber attacks, rogue lawyers, rogue accountants, rogue relatives. Check it out. Short commercial break. Back in a moment.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a real voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Hey y'all, it's Nancy from Texas. Real America's Voice gives us truth, not propaganda, and we need that. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, my name is Jeff. I'm from Massachusetts. I love Rav because of the free speech and the political wranglings that go on in the chat every day.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorado. I'm drawbridge in the Getter chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we are going to get some clips from what's happening over in the House Judiciary. It's, let's say this, a little intense. Pam Bondi's over there. You can watch it on our streaming alternative if you want to get the full, get bathed in it. Bibi's supposedly showing up in a few minutes by a side entrance. I think that's pretty symbolic. Pretty tough negotiations going to go on today. Kurt Mills is going to join us. A lot of new information about this. James Johnson, JL Partners, an American company, and just forget the awfully British accent. He's an American citizen. James, first of all, give me your ideas of the, because I think this is another shocker to people that are not in Texas. It looks like Crockett's, they held up the evangelical left-wing Christian as literally the second coming that was going to save the Democratic Party. But to me, his campaign being down in Texas is not getting traction. It's Crockett's everywhere. Is Jasmine Crockett, do you believe, going to win the Democratic primary here to run against whoever, Hunt, Paxton, or Cornyn? Sir?
Yeah, I think she's the favorite. And again, in the unbiased polls in this race, she's leading, sometimes by as much as 8 or 9 points, sometimes by a bit more narrowly. When you look into the crosstabs, when you look into the data underneath that, it's because of her strength with black voters and Democratic primary voters, African-American Democrat primary voters do come out and vote at these primaries, and they're backing her very heavily. So look, I think we really could be in a scenario where she's the candidate. That's obviously great news for Republicans, almost regardless of who the Republican candidate is, because she's probably going to be pretty easy for the Republicans to paint as being on the more left extreme side of the Democratic Party.
Isn't she a I mean, this is about the rise of the DSA, the Working Family Party, very strong in the Houston area. DSA, I'm telling you that Senate District 9, the DSA ability to get in and do grassroots, and people should not dismiss this, important, but her policies, I mean, she's from the more radical, not just progressive, more radical branch of the Democratic Party. Is this just name recognition, or are people in the Democratic Party really siding with her about these policies?
Look, I think they increasingly are. I think there is a big chunk of the Democratic Party who, especially the longer they've been out of power, and I think after the Trump election, what I've seen when I've been interviewing Democratic voters in focus groups and in interviews is that they're saying we need more of a fighter. We need somebody to take on Trump and take on the Republicans. And what that often means is somebody on the more liberal, progressive, socialist side. We saw that happen in New York, obviously, in that primary with Mamdani. I think we could see it happen with Crockett. The difference is Texas ain't New York. And although she might win the primary, I can't see a world in which she wins statewide.
Let's go back. I want to go back. The New York Times broke last night this story about coming out of nowhere. that people miss was this issue about Sharia law and really what I think people are viewing as an Islamic invasion of Texas, particularly in the Houston area and especially in North Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. That has kind of shocked people. And people, as we've started the show, we're in Texas as one of our fourth hour during the week. And on Saturday, or the second hour on Saturday, we tell people, the example we always use is London and New York City. And people get it. They're awake. We gave a permission structure, I think, for people to talk about this conference we had with Geert Wilders. We brought Geert Wilders over here for a reason. That guy has fought this for 20 years. He saw it happening. Nobody, the elites didn't do anything, overwhelmed his countries, overwhelmed London, overwhelmed Paris. We also had Glenn Beck, the great Glenn Beck, that's been been banging the drum on this for 20 years. Your thoughts about this? The New York Times has now officially said, okay, this is the thing, although it's a conspiracy theory of the far-right wingnuts. Your assessment about this issue, and will it be an important issue in this race?
I think it could be important in the primary. I think, the ads determine this race, right? The amount of spend from Cornyn, the amount of spend from Paxton, and the increasing amount of spend from Hunt, although it'd be interesting to see whether he can pull enough resources together. Look, as I mentioned earlier, Steve, when you ask people what are their hesitations about John Cornyn out of the Republican primary voters, this is something that's coming through. People say, now most prominent in concern is he a rhino? Is he pro-Trump enough? But also in there is the words Islamic, is the word Islam. Clearly, some of these attacks are getting through and landing, linking Cornyn to the issue you mentioned. So, do I think it's going to be the number one issue? Probably not. But do I think it's important in the primary race? I think so, and it may explain why, amongst MAGA Republicans, when you look at the how they're going to vote, because we asked this in our poll, we asked people, do you consider yourself a MAGA Republican, or do you consider yourself a more traditional moderate Republican? And amongst those sort of self-defined MAGA voters, Ken Paxton has 33%, Wesley Hunt has 29%, and John Cornyn is right down on 14%. So, in terms of where the future of MAGA is, in terms of what MAGA means now, today in 2026, it's Paxton and Hunt that are leading that charge in Texas, with Cornyn quite far behind.
James, I want people to follow you because you're putting out great information about this race all the time. You're very focused on this because you know the importance of this primary race, not just for the country, but also for the MAGA movement, the Republican Party in the world. Where do people go to get you, sir?
So they can go on X. It's James Johnson 252. And you can also pick up J_L_partners for the company account.
That would be an American company, right? JL Partners.
That would be an American company. Don't believe the accent.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
I might add that John Cornyn has put out an ad, a 30-second ad that says that he has been fighting Sharia law and he's been fighting the Muslim Brotherhood and he's been fighting CAIR for his entire career. So that's how much this has elicited interest in this topic, that John Cornyn's climbing on board. It's a dogfight. Of course, Ken Paxton is beloved member of the grassroots here, the grassroots intensity and back of Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton has not raised a ton of money. John Cornyn, I think, has raised, $60, $70 million. Most of that will be spent in this primary. The amount of spending is beyond belief, and it looks like it's going to be a runoff. So this has got a long way to go in Texas. We're going to take a short commercial break. Kurt Mills is with us to give a broader perspective of exactly what this means today in the Oval with Bibi. We'll cover Bibi if the camera's allowed to be cut on. We're also going to go back to the hearing, try to get some clips from Pam Bondi. Dr. Peter Navarro has got a piece up in the Washington Times today to rebut the Wall Street Journal's assertion that President Trump is not bringing manufacturing and manufacturing jobs back to the United States of America. Complete bald-faced misinterpretation of information. Natasha Owens takes us out with the boss. We're going to be back in a moment.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a real voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Wednesday, 11 February, year of our Lord 2026. We're going to go back to the White House here momentarily, Dr. Peter Navarro. But I've got Scott Walter up. Scott, and we played clips last night. We're so pressed for time, we can't play clips this morning. But you gave pretty explosive testimony in front of a group that you normally don't see explosive testimony. It was Jason Smith in Missouri, the chairman of Ways and Means, having a hearing that I know the Treasury Department and IRS and people have been talking about, but really was about in this color revolution we've got in the streets of America, which has to be the number one priority here, of the mass deportations. The resistance to President Trump's effort to do that is actually funded by nonprofits, NGOs, and you're making the case that it's coming from foreign money. Can you just walk us through, take a minute, exactly what the problem is, what's your research? You're over at Capital Research, you're the president of it. You've got a reputation of being kind of like Caesar's wife in this. You just lay out the facts. Talk to us about what you found and why Jason Smith's committee hearing was so explosive.
Well, the first thing to understand is that the left in America, right, they consider themselves an infrastructure. They're interlinked. They work together. They aspire to be the Borg, and they often operate like a Borg. So whenever something pops up, whether it's George Floyd's death or Hamas' attack on Israel or the ICE enforcement of the law, they spring into action. And what's important to understand is it's bad enough that there are some Americans who are trying to finance this and organize this, but it's appalling when you find out that there are foreigners involved. And one of the chief foreigners in the ICE riots is somebody who technically, Neville Roy Singham is his name. He sold his software company for $750 million, so America was very good to him. But he lives in Shanghai. He despises America. And he has a whole network of his own groups, including Code Pink and the People's Forum, which are central to those anti-ICE riots that you're seeing.
Well, in fact, he's married to Jody Evans, who's one of the biggest revolutionaries in the country. She's the head of Code Pink, correct?
That's true, although ironically, Code Pink years ago attacked China for human rights abuses, but after she married him, that all stopped.
Talk to me about him, because he is not, people know George Soros. The two you talked about was George Soros and this guy. So walk us through this guy, because he is an American citizen, but he lives in Shanghai. He's very closely affiliated with the CCP. I think people say that he's closely associated with the Shanghai military intelligence branch of the PLA. What do we know about him? Because he's the besides Soros, he's the single biggest funder of this color revolution. Am I correct in that?
Well, he hides a lot of his funding, so the numbers are uncertain. He is certainly the most important foreign funder of it, and he certainly is a central part of this machinery, thanks to the People's Forum, Code Pink, Answer Coalition, and other things he's mixed up in.
Talk to us about this.
As I said, Daddy was just a professor, so it's so pathetic. He's a classic American success story. He didn't come from big money, but he built up a company that was worth $750 million. But then after he got the money by selling it, he runs to China and starts doing everything he can to help China take over the world, and is very explicit that he loathes America. But then that's why he's working with the American left, because they do too.
Talk to me about, there's a Swiss national also that's a big funder of this. Let's make this guy infamous. Who is it?
Hans-Jörg Wyss. He is a Swiss billionaire. He spends most of his time in Wyoming, but he refuses even to get a green card. And he has been one of the biggest funders of the Arabella Advisors nonprofit network, which is $1.5 billion a year worth of operations. And as an example, part of the Arabella network runs a group where the woman who is the main person training the anti-ICE people is employed, right? So she's doing trainings every few days on here's how to go attack ICE. And she's doing it courtesy of this big lefty network that Hans-Jörg Wyss is one of the top funders of. He's given over $300 million to that network.
Jason Smith had this. He's a smart guy. He knows the tax code inside and out. He had this hearing that was so controversial for a reason. Where is he going? Where's the Ways and Means Committee going on this, maybe in conjunction with the executive branch, with Treasury and IRS? What is, there's a purpose for this. This just wasn't some random thing to have you there and to go through your research. What is the task and purpose of Jason Smith, do you believe?
Chairman Smith has been working very hard to identify these bad actors and to have something done about them through the IRS and the Treasury Department. And by the way, one of the members on the other side of the aisle was screaming, "You guys are going after people's speech." Nobody's going after speech. If you want to stand up and say, "I love Mao in China," great. But that is very different from organizing riots where violence is done and laws are broken. The IRS has a very simple rule. If you're doing illegal things, you're not entitled to a tax exemption. That is not speech. That is illegality that is the target.
Scott, where can people find, because this is the kickoff of what's going to be a very contentious process, because I know IRS and Treasury are very involved already, and people are going to choke off the money. They're going to put an end to this nonsense. Part of it, you've got to choke off the money of foreign actors and bad actors. Where do people go to get your research, sir?
Capitalresearch.org is our main website. InfluenceWatch.org is our encyclopedia of the left. You'll lose hours going down the rabbit holes, but you'll love it. And on X, we're at Capital Research.
Scott, thank you. Thank you for the testimony yesterday. It was incredible, and you were very calm in walking through, which is a absolute outrage in this country. So thank you very much, sir, for your composure, discernment, and research.
Thanks.
Okay, we have Dr. Navarro. We have Dr. Navarro from the White House. Dr. Navarro, the Wall Street Journal has come out, pretty adamant that you and President Trump have really failed in this endeavor to bring manufacturing back to the United States, and particularly manufacturing jobs. You've got a pretty I think first off, you had a letter to the editor of the Journal, and then you had on tariffs, and now you've got a big piece in the Washington Times. If we can put that up, what do you got for us? What's your rebuttal, sir?
Steve, we got two lines of attack going on at the Wall Street Journal and the legacy media and the Democrats. The first line was that tariffs cause inflation. And at this point, we've pretty much beaten that back because the data just doesn't show that at all, Steve. And the letter to the editor in the Wall Street Journal is well worth a read today because it kind of walks through exactly why all the experts, including the likes of Paul Krugman, just get it wrong, including the Wall Street Journal. Today, I continue to fight on the other line of attack, which is somehow tariffs harm manufacturing rather than help it. It's just BS. So what I do today in the Washington Times, everybody should read that paper. It's the best paper for op-eds. It's really good. What I do there is I look at the ISM Manufacturing Index. See, this is an index I wrote about in my books. It's one that I've loved for going on 25 years. It's a diffusion index 0 to 100, and when it goes over 50, that means manufacturing's expanding. And Steve, during the 2 years or so of the Biden regime, the last 2 years, that thing was down in recession territory. In other words, under the Biden policies, it just devastated manufacturing. We just last week had a breakthrough where this thing jumped 5 points in a single month to decisively push past 50, vindicating the idea that manufacturing is recovering. But the interesting thing about the piece is that, well, the ISM is generally what we call a leading indicator. It's been lagging behind others. And the most important part of the piece for the financial news networks and all of this is to point out that every other manufacturing indicator has been flashing green for months. And they've been ignoring that because they just don't want to see it. So, for example, the S&P manufacturing PMI repeatedly showing expansion. The Federal Reserve industrial production rising. Manufacturing productivity surging at 3.7% annually. Durable goods are just knocking it out of the park. They contributed roughly half a percentage point, about 12% of overall growth in the gross domestic product in the third quarter alone. And why that's important, Steve, is if durable goods manufacturing is robust, that's the kind of manufacturing that's going to make the machines that are going to go into the factories that are going to make stuff and create the manufacturing jobs. So what people don't understand is like the three stages of the whole process. First, there's tariffs. Second of all, that protects domestic industry, so they make investments. Third, we get just a bunch of construction jobs. And finally, we get the factories and the permanent factory jobs. And today's jobs report was a blowout number, but it also reinforced exactly the themes that I'm talking about here, Steve, because what we've got in that report, very interesting. It'll be up, my analysis will be up on Real Clear Markets later this morning. It shows that we're not hiring any government workers anymore. That net down big time. All of the job growth is in the private sector, and we had kind of the sweet spot in this report. We had both a rising labor force participation rate, which means more people are participating, even as the unemployment rate went down. So that's like, you don't see that very often. That's robust growth. And on top of that, Steve, prime age workers are the ones leading this. And why do we care about that? The prime age workers are the ones who have the vigor and the skills. You don't have to train them. They're the most productive members of the worker distribution. The young, you got to train. They're not as productive. The seniors kind of fade off into retirement. Same thing. So, Steve, everything is working beautifully right now. And the trajectory here going into the November midterms, which is everything we're about at the White House, as is the War Room, is you're going to see real wages rising. Wages rose in this latest report. and you're going to see a lot of blue-collar manufacturing jobs, which is not to say we're not very worried about AI and the white-collar impacts and not just AI affecting jobs, but also electricity prices.
Hang on.
And water.
Go ahead. Hang on. I know you're busy, but I got to hold you through the break because I want to come back, and I don't want to bury these leads. I want to tie together breaking the 50% threshold on manufacturing, what that means, and also when Peter Navarro says it's a blowout jobs report, I just want to go back to that and tie them both together because. And also, because when you're on the other day, there was some criticism, right, by even some people on the MAGA right to saying, hey, the foreign burn workers are dropped, so it's 50,000. I just want to take a second and walk through this because the turnaround of the economy and the hole that we had was so deep is massive. And it's a predicate for everything that's happening in the midterm. It's a predicate for all these other issues of mass deportations. And I'm going to give you some bad news, or a reality check. John Thune has said the SAVE Act and passing the Save America Act now that has the voter ID, it has the purging of the voter rolls, and it has the, different things about mail-in ballots. Thune had just said, has come out and says there's no possibility we're going to change the filibuster. Including we're not making there's not enough votes to even change to have a talking filibuster. So we are jammed up in the codification of some of President Trump's biggest policies he's put out through executive order. Short commercial break. Peter Navarro will stick with us for a few minutes. I got Kurt Mills. We're also going to go back to the White House. Be back in a moment.
I got American faith.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a real voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumppknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Hey y'all, it's Nancy from Texas. Real America's Voice gives us truth, not propaganda, and we need that. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, my name is Jeff. I'm from Massachusetts. I love Rav because of the free speech and the political wranglings that go on in the chat every day.
Hi, this is Chris from Colorado. I'm drawbridge in the Getter chat. I trust no one for my news except Real America's Voice. So if anyone asks, I was never here.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, Peter, since this is the predicate, this is not the end all and be all. And there are some people, and I know the Speaker of the House and others are saying, oh, well, the economy is going to be so great. It's the economy stupid. We're in the middle of a fight for this country. We're in the middle of a color revolution, and that's pretty obvious. It's one of the reasons we shifted the flag down here to Texas for this primary, given the importance of not simply the Sharia law, right, and this Islamic invasion of Texas, and particularly North Texas. But I will tell people, since being down here on the ground, the H-1B visa problem is a very close second, and people are furious about it. People are furious about it. And I've said from the beginning, you cannot reform that program. It must be shut down. And people are just furious about this program and what it's done, not simply to the country, but to Texas. I'll have more on that. Rosemary Jenks is going to join us again tomorrow. We're going to be able to walk you through it. Also, programming note, Sunday, I believe, is the 500th day, I've been told, that Tina Peters will be in prison. We're going to do a special on Saturday morning with the Tina Peters team to walk through on the 499th, the eve of the 500th, will come on Sunday. We'll do a special about Tina Peters and the trials and tribulations of Tina Peters, a Gold Star mother held in a Colorado, what is it, medium maximum security prison? Peter, you know about that, going to prison. Concisely, explain to me why 50% on this rating is important, why we're above it, why the momentum is for manufacturing, tie it to, as you call it, a blowout jobs number.
The ISM Manufacturing Index historically has been the gold standard to measuring whether manufacturing in the economy is in expansion or recession. It's a diffusion index, 0 to 100, and the magic number is 50. Anything over 50 signals that manufacturing is expanding, and therefore manufacturing jobs are expanding. Now, go back in a time capsule to August 2022. That was the last time the ISM Manufacturing Index was above 50. Biden destroyed our manufacturing sector. And by the way, buried the lead talking about today's jobs report, it reveals a total of 2 million jobs that were overestimated by Biden leading into the 2024 election. It was arguably the most, how do you call it? It's like a shell game, unethical, immoral, had the cooperation of bureaucrats at Commerce and Labor in order to pull that kind of magic trick off. And it was total BS. And the fact that here's how I tie this together. The fact that 2 million jobs were overstated, phantom jobs, explains now why the ISM Manufacturing Index couldn't get above 50. Got it? So this is a big deal. What's been perplexing me, Steve, is why the ISM has been underperforming as a good index during Trump years now, because all of these other indices, which I mentioned, S&P Manufacturing, PMI, Federal Reserve Industrial Production, Manufacturing Productivity, Durable Goods, they're all pointing to a manufacturing renaissance under Trumpnomics, and that's what we got. So bottom line is, I understand better than most the pain people are suffering, both from inflation and the uncertainty of the job situation. All we can do in Trump land is provide the best possible policies to stimulate the economy and make sure MAGA folks, blue-collar manufacturing workers, and the supply chains that tie into them, including service sector jobs, are going to prosper. And what I'm telling you, Steve, is that the policies that we've adopted are showing material improvement.
Real quickly, just show me the
one other thing.
Hang on. Why is this a blowout? Why is this a blowout?
Your posse here.
Yep, go ahead.
Here's the deal. When you're putting 20 million illegals into the country over a 4-year period, you have to produce you have to create many more jobs just to keep the unemployment rate steady. Got it? And that number, that magic number, was near 200,000. Okay. Now, when you not only stop importing millions of illegal aliens, but you also start deporting them, right? You're not importing, you're deporting, right? It's just logical that the steady state jobs number month to month is going to be lower. And it's going to be somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000. We had a blowout 130,000 number this time. But the good news there was we needed more jobs to create because the labor force participation rate percentage went up. That's the number of people who got off the sidelines, got off the couch, said, hey, we love this Trump economy. Wages are going up. I'm going to go to work.
The 130,000, are they all?
Pasi,
they're not.
Just look at it analytically.
Okay, 130,000. By the way, this is as bad as having you as my co-host. I'm grabbing the mic here. Is the 130,000 American workers? They're not foreign workers, because this has been the profile of President Trump.
We are not employing illegal immigrants coming over the border. 130,000 non-farm jobs in January. It was double the consensus expectation. Private payroll surged by here. Who's in this, Steve? Private payroll, 172,000. Government payroll down 42,000.
Wow.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, I mean, the message here is that when you have more private sector jobs, that's where innovation, capital investment, and efficiency drive real output growth. Full stop. It's a powerful combination, too, when you have prime age men and women going up in the labor force participation rate. You're going to be more productive. GDP is going to grow faster. Real wages are going to rise. It's deflationary. And so, Trump is doing not just something right. He's doing a lot of things right, which is not to say there aren't challenges out there, but we're tackling them, and that's all we can do, Steve.
Peter, we're going to put all these the real clear markets you're coming up with now on the jobs report. We're putting up the Washington Times op-ed. We'll get all the information out, plus your videos. Where do people go to get your content? You're putting up stuff every day in support of the president's economic program. Where do they go?
The clearinghouse is peternavarro.com, peternavarro.com, and that'll take you to X, Getter, True Social, Instagram, and have fun. Watch the videos. When you see them, share them with a friend. 60 seconds. They really basically capture the essence of whatever article or report I've just put out. And Steve, keep hammering away, brother, because we got a fight on our hands. And going into November, a lot of things could change if it goes the wrong way and MAGA land gets complacent out there. We got to realize what the stakes are.
I think
because you and I are going to prison again, by the way. And haven't seen a Peters in prison at all.
500
what the hell is she in a maximum security prison for? What the hell is that all about? That is so punitive, Steve. That is so.
It's outrageous.
So wrong.
We are not going to lose in November, and one of the reasons we got the predicate of a strong economy that you guys have built through action. Dr. Navarro, thank you so much. I appreciate you, sir.
Right,
Look forward to having you back on. Let's get Mo and Grace. We push this out. Let's be full multipliers. Kurt Mills, I got a couple of minutes on this side of the break. Brian Glenn reported they're going to talk about the border peace. They're going to talk about Gaza, which, as you know, Bibi's not a big name in, and they're going to talk about the negotiations, which Bibi thinks is too narrow cast, but also they're going to, I think the big purpose of conversation is the military strike. Give me a couple of minutes, set the framework for what's happening today in the Oval Office.
Yeah, so high stakes meeting. Prime Minister Netanyahu's already met with Secretary Rubio. It was, by all appearances, it achieved the goal of getting Netanyahu on the board of peace. I will note that the body language of Secretary Rubio was rather strange with Netanyahu. It didn't look like Rubio was particularly happy to be there because Netanyahu is going to come to this series of meetings with an agenda. He does not want basically any deal that the Iranians will plausibly accept, and he wants the U.S. To return to a war footing with Iran. And it looks like yesterday that he was very much getting his way. The president's messaging to both Israeli media and to Lawrence Kudlow was using the missiles line, that is that the Iranians have to disarm entirely in order to have an acceptable deal. That is something that the Iranians will not do. They'd rather just go to war and take their chances. Today, though, I think the appearance is that it's more murky and that no one really knows what the president wants to do. We have obviously a lot of assets in the region, and we could attack. The Israelis could attack, and indeed the Israelis have signaled that they may attack if the U.S. takes the off-ramp, which, kind of not America's business. They're welcome to. And then on the other side, the sort of emerging Amanance Greece of the Iranians, this person, Laranjani, the Ayatollah's, the Supreme Leader's national security advisor, effectively, has been all over jet setting. He's in Doha, Qatar today, negotiating with various counterparts. We appear to be at the 11th hour of a potentially new war or a new deal entirely, and the range of outcomes is extraordinary.
Okay, hang on for a second. I'll hold you through the break. I want to go back to the border peace, Gaza. What's happening there? That's the predicate of this, to see if we're going to have war or peace. Birchgold.com, one of the reasons gold's been on a roll is geopolitical uncertainty. Besides the capital markets being in flux, Birchgold.com, end of the dollar empire. Now, if you make an appropriate investment, go to Birchgold.com, promo code Bannon, get access to the Patriots edition with an appropriate purchase. Philip Patrick and the team will send you the hardback copy of this. Short commercial break. Back in a minute.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind, and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th. But your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
I'm Terry from New Jersey.
And I just want to say that I love Real America's Voice. I love you guys. Keep up the good work.
It's Stacy from Texas. I watch Real America's Voice because I need to learn.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
You know, the sponsors love the War and Posse so much, they're always giving us special deals. I do not want you to miss this Tax Network USA, TNUSA, 800-958-1000. They will set up, if you say you're from the War and Posse, they will set up a free discovery call. Don't let the envelope, don't put the IRS notifications in your drawer. Don't sit there and stay awake at night. Don't have the angst and anxiety. You have a very professional organization that's done, I think, $1 billion worth of transactions with the IRS for people just like yourself. They do this for a living. Your tale of woe on your situation with the IRS is something they've heard before 1 million times. Go to them. And they give you a free discovery call, which is unheard of. 800-958-1000. Say you're from the War and Posse. Say you listen to the War Room. Say Bannon sent you. Whatever you do to identify yourself, they'll give you a free discovery call. And you can start the process of actually saying, okay, I understand what's going on. Remember, it's $2 trillion deficits a year. Scott Bessent's overseeing the IRS. You saw Jason Smith yesterday, these great hearings. The IRS is, if they believe that you owe something, that's what they're going to come after you for. You need somebody to negotiate for you to get your side of the story out. 1-800-958-1000. It's totally free. It's a free discovery call. Do it today. Kurt Mills, BB, we haven't gotten confirmation. Just coming through the side exit is actually interesting. You say they signed the Board of Peace. Real quickly on Gaza, this is what I keep saying. I'm a one-state guy, right? I've always had Israel's back. I adamantly oppose Greater Israel Project, and that's exactly why we're in this situation today. And nobody on the Israel side can defend it. The Greater Israel Project, this imperial Israel, is what's got us here to have a two-state solution, and that is this Gaza redevelopment with Qatar writing the check and the Turks providing security. It's a super high priority for President Trump because he thinks that manifests peace. Where do we stand with this? Bibi signed it today reluctantly. I mean, he's on the Board of Peace because he wants to be in the room, but he hates the whole concept of the Board of Peace, and he hates the whole concept of what's happening in Gaza. Your thoughts?
No, I mean, it's a high stakes meeting. I think Netanyahu will do whatever it takes to remain in the room and not on the menu. And I think humoring the president's goal of redeveloping Gaza, which I think remains basically a moonshot that's not going to happen during Trump's remaining time in office, is a small price to pay for Netanyahu. What he really wants, as you allude to, is the Greater Israel Project. He wants U.S. force arms and U.S. grandeur and power to be used to flatten all of Israel's foes in the Muslim world on behalf of Israel. It's a fairly ambitious, frankly, and garish request. But Netanyahu has gotten this far, and it has been the linchpin of his political career ever since he rose to the prime ministership for the first time in the 90s. He's had tight alliances with U.S. neoconservatives and Republican hawks, and he's trying to reach the Holy Grail right now, which is regime change in Iran.
Well, people, I can tell you right now, with all the issues facing the country, including the color revolution, the mass deportations, we have an Islamic invasion in Texas and put Sharia law. And I've had people in 10 states come to me. They want to do the same thing in their states. The economy, we have so many issues we have to face. And let me be blunt. The Save America Act looks like right now it's not going anywhere. I don't care if it comes out of the House. It's just going to sit there. Thune's been adamant that there's not enough impetus in the Senate to go to a standing filibuster, and you should understand some of the he says, well, there's no interest in this, no support. Some of the senators that don't support that are the biggest hawks about taking down Tehran. A kinetic strike on Tehran right now, I think, would take the chances we have of holding the House and the Senate, which I happen to think are pretty good if we focus. I think we go into a free fall. What needs to happen with the voices of reason? I think even Rubio may have joined that, given his body language today, to make sure that we squeeze the mullahs, we squeeze the Ayatollah, and we do this through economic warfare, sir.
Look, Trump has got to stiff the Republican oligarchs. guard. I mean, it is that, or he is going to be a repetition of Republican presidents of the past. As you can tell, and as you just discussed, the base case for the Senate GOP hawks is they want to do two things: cut taxes and bomb the Middle East. And obviously, President Trump's ambitions are far more sweeping than that. He wants to avoid a war. And I think, Trump's got to take the off-ramp here. There remains a deal on the table that is a better deal than Barack Obama ever got with the Iranians. It will be a lower enrichment number. And I think there will probably be opportunities for investment, American investment in Iran, that Trump finds so attractive. And as I discussed with your audience before, this is actually the most likely theater for Trump to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. If he does a deal that the Europeans don't like on Ukraine, they're never going to give it for that. He's never going to get it at this point in Latin America with his feud with the Machado woman. But if he does a Iran deal that is more impressive than the democratically, capital D, negotiated one, that will about do it. And stiffing Netanyahu, flouting his will, it will look like he's the commander in chief. It will look like America's in the driver's seat, and it will be a Nixon goes to China type accomplishment.
Even before the thing, but Netanyahu was saying that the negotiations we're having now, the nuclear program, are too narrow. They got to broaden that out to regime change without kinetics. So this thing's quite complicated. We're going to be reporting on it all day. Monumental day in the White House right now. Kurt, you're putting stuff up 24/7 on this. Where do people go?
Yeah, you can find my own personal feed at Kurt Mills, at CURT, and my LLS on X. And the website and the magazine is theamericanconservative.com, founded in 2002 by Pat Buchanan and friends and conservatives against the Iraq War. We're trying to prevent an Iran war in the 2020s. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's play this, a tragedy in British Columbia last night. Let's go ahead and play a clip. We're going to bring in Sheila Matthews.
At least 9 people are dead and 24 others hurt after separate shootings at a school and a home in a remote part of British Columbia. Canadian police confirming that at least 6 people were found dead inside the school, while another died on the way to the hospital. The only suspect, a woman, was found dead inside the school from a self-inflicted injury. 2 other victims were found dead at a nearby home believed to be connected with the shooter. The shooting is Canada's deadliest in nearly 6 years. The investigation into the motive continues.
Sheila Matthews joins us. We're trying to get, I think, Terry Schilling up this afternoon. Sheila, you've been right on this so many times. What happened? Was this a woman that actually did it? Do we know the details of what happened in Canada, ma'am?
The details around the internet is that it's a boy. It's a young adolescent boy. We have information that the mother was on Reddit looking for help because her son was being diagnosed with ADHD. So we know that psychiatric influences here. The fingerprints of the behavioral health industry is here. It appears that a picture is coming out with him, and the Prime Minister has postponed his trip to Germany that he was going to deal with this. And as we've spoken, this is a national crisis, not only in our country, but around the world. These psychiatric drugs are linked to increased risk of suicide and mass murder. And so we have this latest in Canada, which has the strongest gun laws. So it's not the guns. And the mother obviously was, I believe she's been killed, but the facts on the ground seem to be that this young adolescent boy was dressed in a woman's dress. And so we have some adults around this young boy that really needs to be questioned. Again, we're looking for the mental health records. We're looking for the psychiatrist. Of course, this is Canada, but we're doing that here as well, Steve. We can't get, you're talking about the SAFE Act. We can't get the Congress and the Senate to do an exit plan for the 1 in 4 children or adults that are on these psychiatric drugs. So we have a disgusting disgusting situation here of children on cocktails of drugs and then placed on puberty blockers and all sorts of things. But they start with the psychiatric diagnoses. They start in the behavioral health industry, which is a $1 billion industry. So, it's hard to get into the devil's den, as you know, to pull these numbers. And these numbers tell the story. It's over and over, and nobody will address this. If we care about children, which everybody's so up in arms about, which I am, let's look at these psychiatrists and what they're doing to our children. That's what we need to do.
Okay, hang on a second, just as a detail. Has the mother been identified as if she's also, you said she was killed. Has she been identified as being killed? I thought it was just children at the school and the perpetrator.
No, there's a house involved, and we believe that the mother and the brother was killed. So the family members were killed. But on Reddit, there's information about this mother. Believe me, the people are doing the work. The people are doing the investigation. And there's a lot about the psychiatric involvement in this trial. And the prime minister, by the way, is referring to it and the news as a person. This is a person. It's a boy. Yeah, it's a gun person. Even said, okay, I want to go back. You've been with us now, I think, coming on a couple of years, specifically about a lot of these shootings with these people wrapped up in this transgender ideology. You've been coming on. Have we made any progress at all? You're saying, hey, the cops, you're going to have reports and they want to find the motive, and the motive is all something stupid. You've got to go back to the attending, I guess, psychiatrists, psychologists, what their evaluation was, and what's the cocktails, what's the drug cocktails. Have we made any progress at all in doing that here in the United States? One piece of legislation in Tennessee, which, as you know, you helped me with and got connected with on the ground there in Tennessee, is evaluating the death of these perpetrators and pulling their blood for therapeutic levels of psychiatric drugs. That is a landmark piece of legislation that I worked on, Able Child, along with Amy Miller, who works for MAHA. And that piece of legislation is what we got passed. We're fighting in Georgia right now for an exit plan, for written informed consent. Nobody wants to sponsor the bill. We have lawmakers that refuse to work with the public, that refuse to do anything. So yes, there's been a win there, but it's not enough, Steve. I mean, it's not enough. We can't get the autopsies. We can't get the toxicology.
Why are politicians not want to co-sponsor these bills? Because the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, is making so much money. They come in and Big Pharma puts pressure on people, and the psychiatry industry.
Well, look at it in Minnesota. It's embedded in our system. It's the behavioral health oversight committees that are running the whole interior of our government. They're writing bills, and they're inside the government, the behavioral health oversight committees, and they're stacked with pharma. So the parents, like my organization that goes to the lawmakers, they already have 5 pro bills that I'm trying to kill in Georgia, saying, we need more evaluations, we need all this. And they don't even have the data of the children in foster care that are being massively drugged. We're talking about missing children in this country and sex abuse. Where do you think they're getting the children from? The Department of Children and Family Services. I work on horrible cases like the one in Connecticut where the parent chopped up the child and, DCF blamed homeschoolers.
Sheila, we got to bounce. Where do people go? I want them to go to your site right now to get all the information and your social media. Where do people go?
Sure. Go to ablechild.org, and we have a petition that needs to be signed and for federal hearings. And we're doing an event. People can go to ablechild25.com. You're going to be there, Steve, and James O'Keefe and the Hoff brothers. I mean, all these people that have been fighting, freedom fighters. So we're looking forward to working with you and keep going.
Thank you, ma'am. Terry Schillings, we'll try to get him on tonight about the same topic.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
I'm Terry from New Jersey, and I just want to say that I love Real America's Voice. I love you guys. Keep up the good work.
It's Stacy from Texas. I watch Real America's Voice because I need to learn.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we've been absolutely slammed this morning. Charlie Kirk Show is going to follow us with Andrew Colvett, Poso. We're going to be back at 5. We'll have assessments of Pam Bondi today. We've been live streaming the entire time. Also, the all-important meeting with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. So much going on. Birch Gold. The Patriots edition of the End of the Dollar Empire is out. You can get one by making an appropriate investment, but you got to go to birchgold.com, promo code Bannon. Talk to Philip, Patrick, and the team. Do it today. Find out why gold has been a hedge for 5,000 years. When we started the End of the Dollar Empire, 4 or 5 years ago, gold was at 1,000. It's around 5,000 a day. It's not the price of gold. It's the process that drives the value of gold, as we've been telling you. And we focused on the U.S. dollar. So make sure you go check it out today. Birchgold.com, promo code Bannon, Into the Dollar Empire. Get the Patriots edition. It's a keepsake. And I think you'll love it, like you've loved the whole series. Coming out with the 8th free installment shortly, as I told you when I sign off on the graphics and the math. Danielle Buck from Patriot Mobile, our favorite company. Patriot Mobile does such a great job. You're Director of Strategic Partnerships. Tell me about that first, what you guys do in the community, and then we'll talk about switching over to Patriot Mobile.
Yeah, for sure. So we, as you know, we sell cell phones, but we do that so that we can fund saving our country. And that all falls within our 4 pillars. So the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, sanctity of life, and our veterans and first responders. So most of my job is actually working with all of these amazing organizations that we work with. And actually just last night, I was with 4 of our pro-life groups, kind of talking about messaging and how do we create a culture of life, from the medical side to what's happening in politics and keeping pressure on the president to keep the Hyde Amendment, right? To equip churches to actually love the mom, love the babies, because there's the political side and then there's the cultural side, right?
Because people think that Roe v. Wade's been overturned, President Trump's done his job, and right to life goes to the back of the bus, right?
And unfortunately, that's not what's happening.
What's happening?
Abortion's on the rise. There is approximately about the same amount of abortions still happening. They're just happening by mail-in drugs.
Give that to people again.
Yeah, so there's about the same amount of abortions happening in America today than there were before Roe was overturned with the Dobbs case. And so there is obviously still protections in place for taxpayer dollars, not funding through the Hyde Amendment. But what's happening is these pro-abortion states are essentially mailing drugs.
Wow.
These doctors are mailing drugs across state lines, or they're flying girls. Like I heard yesterday of a story just last night of a girl who went to a pregnancy resource center here in Texas. And Colorado was willing to fly her, pay for her abortion, put her up in a hotel, and fly her back to Texas so that she could have an abortion in the state of Colorado.
Wow.
So this is happening across the country. And so I think they
want to turn Texas into the new Colorado.
Of course they do.
You agree with that?
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
Yes. That's their strategic objective.
Yes. And so we, as pro-life people, need to do everything we can to stop that. And so I love that at Patriot Mobile, we get to work with so many organizations that are actually working together. And so it is on the political side. It's on, Susan B. Anthony, Concerned Women for America, Students for Life, but it's also on the practical side when it comes to these churches. Because if we as the church are saying, hey, you're in an unplanned pregnancy and we're here to help you. We're here to help your physical, spiritual, emotional needs. We'll throw you a baby shower. Your baby may not have been planned by you, but it was planned by God. And so, hey, we're here to help you. And so that's what I love about the pro-love movement, which is what we all call it here. And so that's what we do at Patriot Mobile, right? Like we use money from people switching their phones to us, and we fund groups like.
So how do they switch the phone? How do you switch? The service is fantastic.
Yeah.
The key is to get people to switch. Where do they go? What do they got to do?
Sure. So you can do the entire process online, or you can call 972-PATRIOT. Whether you're an individual, whether you're a family, whether you're a business of 5 lines or 1,000 lines, Patriot Mobile has plans for you. We use the exact same networks that you're probably on today, and many people haven't switched their phones in maybe 20 years, and so they think it's going to be a really arduous process. It's actually not at all.
It used to be an arduous.
Yeah, of course it was.
You guys have simplified.
And it was like, oh my goodness, that was the worst part of my whole week.
Because the service layers on top of the other 3 major providers.
That's exactly right. And we use all 3 carriers, so you can actually have multiple networks on one phone if you want to get a backup line on a secondary network through Patriot Mobile. So truly, bring your phone number. You're going to have the exact same coverage, but you're going to be supporting causes that align with your values.
972-PATRIOT. You'll talk to somebody, as a company tells me, a U.S. citizen with probably an East Texas accent. They'll walk you through. It's a very simple process. Daniel is doing fantastic. I know when we're down here, everybody talks about the great work you guys are doing in all these different groups. Just hang on for a second. We're going to get Mike Lindell. Brother, tell me, first off, give me a minute on how's the race going. You're going to be the next governor of Minnesota. And then the War and Posse loves that, and they want to support it. You've been with us for years. Kurt Olson now, a guy you know very well, is getting CIA reports on the stolen election of 2020. The media is melting down about that. But then we want to segue, because what the War and Posse really wants to talk about is deals, and a special deal you got for us. What do you got, sir?
Well, you guys on the election, you guys can all help out. My governor's race, we've hit the ground running. I've been down here in Florida, Mar-a-Lago and stuff for doing fundraisers and everything, but we need your help, War Room Posse. It's MikeLindellGov.com. It's MikeLindellGov.com. Everybody, if you guys help, I promise I'm working 18 hours a day to be the next governor of Minnesota and beat Amy Klobuchar and ban Sharia law, amongst many other things, getting rid of the fraud and saving and securing Minnesota. And in the parallel track, working with all our election platforms, as Steve said there. So it's MikeLindellGov.com. And then I do want to tell you that I couldn't even pull away from my pillow if it wasn't for the War Room Posse. You guys keeping my employees secure, and we're running the mega sale. Today's the last day where both sales collided. It's the 2nd annual mega sale with all of our towels and sheets that just came in, all the colors there. The towels, for example, the lowest price in history, $34.98 for a 6-piece towel set. The Giza Dream Sheets you all love, $29 $29.90 as low as $29.98. My Pillows $14.98. And then if you go to mypillow.com/war room, there's the mattress toppers and mattresses that I left on sale with the free shipping right to your front door. Remember, our mattresses have technology and our mattress toppers that no one else has. Queen size alone has over 10,000 individual comfort supports. I helped design these to give you the best sleep of your life. Those have a 6-month money-back guarantee, 10-year warranty. All the products we have, you guys love all our products, our pillows and everything that actually help you get the best sleep ever. It's 1-800-873-1062. They love talking to the War Room Posse. It's the last day for the 2 sales collide. You guys take advantage of that free shipping right to your front door. Promo code War Room.
Mike, we'll see you this afternoon in the 5 o'clock show. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. MyPillow.com, promo code WAR, most powerful promo code in the business. Danielle, thank you for joining us and the great work. You guys here are absolutely incredible. The Charlie Kirk Show with Andrew Colvette is next. Posos after that. We're back here at 5 o'clock. We'll be on fire. See you then.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you